Alrighty, y'all. What are some of the most reliable cars money can buy? Well, this is definitely going to come down to people's opinions, people's experiences, and of course, actual data. Some kind of blend between all those is usually what I try to go about. But there are usually, cars that kind of pull ahead of the pack when it comes to overall dependability and good reputation. We're going to be concentrating on European cars for this one. I think it's easy to say that a lot of Japanese cars are reliable. That's usually the case. We're going to be taking a look at an article here, and this will be interesting. I believe, from what I could tell, so for context, this is an American article about most reliable European cars you can't ignore. So we're going to take a look at this. I want to see what you guys think, so please leave your comments, see if you agree with these, see what I think. And then, of course, please stay till the second part of the video because we will be looking at what you guys think. Because if you saw a couple weeks ago, I asked you, the viewers, what some of the most reliable vehicles you've ever owned, and there were 234 responses, so we'll be looking at some of the top responses and see if your comment will be featured here in the video. All right, so on to the article. This is 10 most reliable cars from Europe you can't ignore. And this is from a year and a half ago. So pretty recent. Just keep that in mind. It's from early 2024. We have number 10 spot, the BMW Z4. Now, this is a car I've never dealt with much. Now, when I think of the Z4, I think of the older ones, like early 2000s maybe. Even like a 2010, I actually didn't know they still made this. I have to say, here in the U.S., at least where I'm at, you don't see these all too often anyway. But if I do, they're usually older ones, like a 2012 or something, right? I don't, this body style, this really new looking one, I don't think I've ever seen in person. So these are quite rare where I'm at. Might not be the case for where you're watching at, but yeah. Are they reliable? Well, according to this, they are. I mean, what do they have? They have a turbo inline four, 255 horsepower, 295 foot-pounds of torque, an 8-speed automatic and rear-wheel drive. I mean, it seems like a simple enough drivetrain. This car is pretty light, pretty small. I suppose it could be pretty reliable. Although I'm almost willing to wager that older ones from maybe 10 or 12 years ago or 15 years ago might be a better bet for long-term reliability. Would that be crazy to say? Didn't they used to use an inline six in these? Then we have a BMW 2 Series. Now, I don't know much about these either, although these are a lot more common. I suppose this is going to, be good for comments. I suppose this is going to really be up to everyone. Like, do they agree with this or not? I've heard from some people Beamers can be pretty straightforward. If you maintain them, they're pretty good. Then I've also heard that, they're not the best. It just depends on who you're asking. I think certain BMWs over the years have been really bad. Like, they've been really cool, but they've been really bad. I think, wasn't it the famous, I think it was the BMW, was it the E39? I might be getting that wrong, so I'm not confident enough to say the gen, but it was the gen from like 2009-ish, like BMW 5 Series that had like the M5 with the V10. First of all, badass car, right? Like, super badass. But I heard that those were a nightmare, like not reliable at all. But on the flip side, normal BMWs might not be terrible like that. I'm sure they're pretty good. I've never owned one. So I will turn to you. Are BMW 2 Series like this reliable? According to, JD Power, which we use here in the U.S. at least, that I know of, 85 out of 100 is pretty damn good. Then we have the Audi A8. This gets a 4 out of 5 from cars.com. And you don't see the A8s much. Audis are definitely relevant around me, around the Chicago area, just Illinois in general. Very popular. You see them every day, all around, but they're usually A4s or A6s, maybe even some of the SUVs like a Q5 or a Q3 are common. A few Q7s here and there. A8s are like the flagship one, right? That's really full-size, big sedan. You don't see them much, but apparently these are really reliable. 8-speed automatic, reliably 0-60 in 5.3. So it's still quick, even though it's a big, heavy car. He's a 3-liter turbocharged 6 mild hybrid, really. Definitely healthy power and torque. I mean, look, I love Audis. I have an Audi flag behind me. I freaking love them, and I want one. I've always wanted an Audi, and someday I'll get one. But, dude, I can't really say definitely if these are reliable or not. I do have a family member that is a mechanic, and I've seen Audis in the shop before. And I don't know if they necessarily would agree that they're reliable. I know they could be pretty costly to repair, at least here in the U.S., but we'll have to see your guys' comments. I'll have to see if there's any Audis on there. I love Audi. I think they're awesome. I don't know if I could just sit here and defend saying that they're super reliable, though. Keep in mind with all these, you could find cars like, look, everyone thinks Toyota Corollas are reliable. You could find a Corolla that could be a piece of crap, right? If it's treated like, totally bad and not maintained, eventually it's going to break, even if it's a reliable car, right? On the flip side, you take an Audi or whatever that might not be considered universally reliable. If you treat it well and you maintain it exactly how you're supposed to and you're on top of it, I think it could be a very reliable car. So that should kind of be said just across the board, that all these, you could have different results depending on who you are and what your scenario is. And I think luck. Sometimes luck plays into it too. All right, the BMW 5 Series. I'm going to scroll through these a little quicker because I honestly want to get to your guys' comments because that's some real world data. And BMW 5 Series, again, Beamer coming through with one of their standard sedans. This, of course, being much bigger than the 2 Series. And honestly, this is one of the better looking ones. I think modern BMWs, I'm not a fan of the styling, but this one actually looks all right. 2-liter turbo 4. I see they've gone to all 4 cylinders. That's kind of crazy. God, Beamers used to have like the super smooth inline 6s. They had V8s, V10s. Kind of crazy seeing all inline 4s so far. Then the Audi A6, of course, they show an RS6. Quite a different car than the A6, if I'm being honest. But these show up as well. I'm kind of shocked by that, but this is definitely a more better selling vehicle, I would imagine, than the A8. The way that RS6 wagon is just literally the definition of a sexy car. That is incredible. On the reliability scale, you have to let me know. Volvo S60. Now, I do hear good things about Volvo. I actually have to admit, I've never really heard bad things about Volvo, even online, which we all know online can be toxic and totally false too. But I have not heard bad things about Volvo, so I'm going to kind of believe this, that these are probably pretty reliable. I know the old ones are. If you've watched my channel for any length of time, you know that I would love one of the old Volvo brick cars, right? That kind of design language from the 80s, 90s. I want an old Volvo so bad, and I know those things are tanks. I have to say, even these modern Volvos like this, though, that is a very attractive car. I do like it a lot. And this has a turbo inline 4, mild hybrid, 247 and 258 torque, 247 horsepower, I should say. 8-speed automatic. Pretty good fuel mileage. Yeah, that looks like a fun car. Then we have the Beamer 4 Series. Pretty good rating. Now, again, take that for what it's worth. Could be BS. Could be accurate. That's kind of what we're trying to figure out with this. This would be a great video for comments. I am not a fan of how these look. Personally, I know some people, it's a love or hate car. Some people really dig these right now, and some people don't. And unfortunately, I'm not loving it, but, I respect it still. I'm sure it's a great performer when we're talking about like the M4 competition, right? As for being reliable, I would be impressed. If like even the M4 was actually reliable, then I'll respect the car a lot more. I just have a hard time believing that it's reliable. But what do I know? Another Beamer. This is almost all BMWs. Are we shocked to see this or not? I'm kind of shocked. I guess out of the German cars, BMW is a safe bet, according to this list. I will be anxious to see what you guys think. The 3 Series, that's like the heart of the lineup, right? 3 Series is very famous, very iconic. High numbers of these being sold, right? That's kind of the volume car, I would imagine, is the 3 Series. Yeah, there you go. Very simple setup, 2-liter inline 4, 8-speed auto, rear-wheel drive. It's just a good sedan if you want. And I do see this being pretty reliable, even different generations of these. Then we have the Mini Cooper at number 2. Okay, now Minis I've always thought were cool, like from a distance. Like what I mean by that is I don't really follow these. I've never ridden in one. I want to. And I've always thought the Minis look fun. I think they look good, and I think they, like the recipe for what it is, it looks like it would be an absolute blast to drive. I think the wheel choice in this one's horrible. I'm not a fan of those wheels, but usually these look really good, these cars. Now, I haven't heard at all if they're reliable. I honestly thought I heard they weren't reliable. But then again, isn't Mini kind of part of BMW? So maybe they are. Then we have the Audi A5 coming in at number 1, a 4.9 out of 5 for the reliability scale on cars.com. So that's kind of crazy. It says for expected reliability, no European car comes close to matching the A5. That's insane, right? Mild hybrid system, turbo 4. It can also be had with turbo V6s. I wonder what's better. I would think the V6 would be better. I mean, it's definitely an attractive car. I know this is one of the sportier ones they're showing, but I've seen A5s in traffic as well, and I think they are very attractive cars naturally. I love Audis. Kind of a pleasant surprise to see it at number 1. Is that true? Are these super reliable? They might be. It's just funny because here in the U.S., it's really a hit or miss depending on who you ask. There are people that think all European cars are just not reliable. Many people here agree that European cars look premium, they look nice, they look sporty, they all handle better, right? It's like people generally do like give credit where it's due, right? Like, so when it comes to that stuff. But then again, there's a lot of Americans that, I don't know if it's been instilled in them or what, but a lot of Americans hate European cars. Like, oh, I would never own that because they're unreliable and they're expensive. I'm, more of a realist. I think that there's, maybe some European cars that would be a nightmare to own. I think others are super simple and reliable, right? And there's a lot of European cars that you've seen me learn about on this channel that I wish I had in my driveway because they're so simple. They're so, logistical. Like the engineering is practical and great in them. And of course, a lot of them can be very reliable as well. These are all newer era cars. I'm just not sure how these actually are in the real world. I would love to hear about it, but let's see what you guys said in the comments. And this will probably be more of a variety of cars and, of course, ages of cars as well. All right, so to my community post, what's been the most reliable / durable vehicle you have ever owned? And for me, I've owned quite a bit of cars, not like super a lot, but maybe a dozen or so, 15 around there. And for me, this is random, but they're actually American cars. Well, kind of. A Saturn Vue, which is sort of American car because it is a Saturn, but it uses a lot of German parts. Now, if you know anything about cars and especially GM, General Motors, there was a lot of sharing of parts between Buick, Saturn, and of course German cars like Opels and stuff. My Saturn Vue is also a manual transmission. Yes, that's awesome. I know, very rare in the U.S. And it has a I always say this wrong. I think it's Getrag or Gertrag, something like that. It's a German transmission, the manual, and I love it. It's a fun car, and it literally costs me nothing. It gets good mileage. It's 20 years old, and it's somehow bulletproof, and it has almost 200,000 miles. And, of course, one thing America did do right, contrary to a lot of people's belief, 90s Chevy trucks are incredible. The 350 small block Chevy, I'm sure you've heard of it, even if you are from a European country. 350 Chevy is just such a easy motor. They've made like millions of them, and they made them for decades upon decades. Even in the 90s, that engine was 4 decades old at that point. But it was a proven design. It's very simple. It doesn't make a huge amount of power, which, you can laugh at, but that's actually a good thing, right? The thing has more than enough power to move the vehicle. Like you get in traffic very easy, but it's not racing away at 8,000 RPMs, making 700 horsepower. So the engine kind of just lugs along and it lasts forever. Ironically, you hear a lot of good thing about Japanese cars, and our Subaru has been reliable so far, but then again, it's only 3 years old. I did have an old Honda, and I will say it's one of the favorite cars I've ever owned. It was an extremely enjoyable and engaging and fun car to drive. But I will take partial, maybe, blame for it because I was young and wasn't on top of things necessarily. But ironically, my Honda from 1989 was an 89 Honda Civic Si. You always hear how reliable Hondas are. Well, my Honda literally blew the motor, and I wasn't even like redlining it or anything when it blew. It just blew up. Now on to your comments. First comment from Ian Gregory. Nice name, by the way, Ian. Yep, my name too. My legs, 63 years old and still going strong. No arguments here. That is one of the most reliable vehicles ever. I respect it. Very cool and clever. Or my 1984 Land Rover Series 3A. Now I'm going to search for these if I don't recognize them. So look, I'm going to hit search Google. And let's see what it pulls up. Ah, here we go. So I will actually pull it up like this. Very nice. This is awesome. Now, this is probably super rare here in the U.S. because, of course, I don't even recognize it. But I do know, very little, but enough to know about old Land Rovers are cool. I definitely love how robust and kind of simple they look. They look very utilitarian. And look at that, $51,000 this sold for Bring It Trailer, which means it was probably sold in the U.S. But that's a pretty penny. So that's a reliable vehicle, it looks like, and they're worth something, at least here in the U.S. But yeah, that's a cool vehicle. Now, I love to see this. We have Matthias, my 1990 Volvo 245, bought in 1998 and still drive it. I respect that so much. You bought this 25 years ago or a little more, and you're still driving it. I drive old cars myself. I love it. That is so freaking cool. Good on ya. And I think that's usually, most of the time, that's financially smart. That is super, super cool. Let's look this up. And there is the 1990 Volvo 245. This is exactly what I want. I love these. I love that it's a wagon. I love the shape. These Volvos are so iconic. They're just so cool, man. They're so freaking cool. And they're practical. And you can beat the crap out of these things and they just go. I absolutely love it. In Australia, back in 1978, I bought a 1958 Austin Cambridge for $200. Wow. I drove it 3,000 miles from Perth to Brisbane. For anyone that doesn't know, that's literally one coast of Australia to the other. That is a long freaking way. That is insane. That is unbelievably long. 3,000 miles from Perth to Brisbane in 3.5 days, and it never missed a beat. I have had many great cars over the years, but I always think of that old Austin as the best value for money I've ever owned. Definitely wins best value ever. I mean, $200, and it got you across a daunting task of getting across Australia in one car. Yeah, that is very great value and very impressive. I have a lot to learn about Austin. Even someone agreeing here, Austin made excellent cars. This is from IWrocker, by the way. I want to shout everyone out. Thank you for your comment. That is very cool. I don't know much about Austin, but looks like I have to learn because I'm intrigued now. And there is the car in question. There's an Austin Cambridge. Wow. Yeah, I don't recognize it at all. I don't know a thing about it, but now I know that these things, well, they're tough. They're tough little cars, and it's piqued my interest. I like it. All right, we have Nico. Hi, Ian. My Scania 143 V8, 1.9 million kilometers. 1991 up until 2000. She is retired now, but I still own it and take her for a ride now and then. Still running great. I absolutely love to see that. That is so cool. I don't even have to look that up. I know Scanias now. They're one of my absolute favorite things I've ever learned about on this channel, and I can see them, of course, being reliable. That is super freaking cool. Okay, we have Klein Shui Mazda. What is that? Zetos? I don't know how to say that. Mazda Zetos 6, a rare V6 sports sedan from 1998. The only car my father has ever owned so far. Still going strong. No issues with rust. No repairs besides common maintenance. Amazing driving feeling. That is so cool. Thank you for your comment. Let's look it up. Wow. Wow, this thing is actually pretty cool. I'm not aware of this car at all. I'm assuming this was something that was not sold in the U.S., or if it was ultra rare, but I like it. It's actually got a kind of an interesting design. It is a sedan, but it's very sleek. Kind of like low slung, right? Damn, that's a cool car. And it's reliable. How can you argue with that, right? Wow, yeah. All these pictures, by the way, they don't have U.S. plates, so it's definitely not a car that was sold here much at all, I don't think. Of course, I love to see that, most of these pictures, they're manual transmissions. I absolutely love to see that. Even one made it onto the racetrack here in race trim. How cool is that? Wow, another car I might have to research. Right, I'm happy to report there is an Audi. When you scroll down, literally the next comment from Wim, 1979, an Audi 100 2.5-liter 5-cylinder diesel, 1988 to 2013, manual 5-speed. 450 kilometers, or 450,000 rather, kilometers. Feed it water and oil, it'll run efficiently forever. I asked way too much of that engine, but kept a relatively low fuel consumption. It had 3 owners, first my parents, me, and then my aunt. Loved that boat. I love to hear it. Audi for the win, baby. That is so cool. Thank you for your comment. I'll skim through a few of these as we end the video, and check that community post out and contribute to it, because we'll revisit it for another video. That's pretty cool. I mean, there's a lot of comments there. But we have Kim Allen, 1971 VW Beetle, air-cooled original. Every mile was a joy, and a happy one for 10 years. And a 2005 Subaru Legacy 2.5-liter SE four-wheel drive estate. So I do love Subarus. A lot of people have great luck with them, so that's awesome. And of course, VW Beetles. You have to respect the Beetle. It's been around forever. It's done so much work in so many different areas of the world, and they definitely were built tough and put on a lot of miles or kilometers. I love this comment from the game. 2000 and 2005 Grand Marquis, just can't beat them. I agree with you. I have the sister car, Panther platform sister car. Of course, I have a Crown Vic Police Interceptor 2006. Yeah, you just can't beat them. They're amazing value, although they are creeping up in price. Like, for the first time in modern era, these have always been cheap cars, and now they're the last few years they're actually creeping up in price, because people know that they don't make them anymore. Like, they stopped making them 15 years ago, and as they get a little more rare, people understand that they're very cheap to own. They're easy to maintain and affordable, and they're super strong and durable, and they just drive so well. And we're gonna end it with Nelly, my twin stroller. He used for 5 kids, some of them Irish twins. I don't have a driver's license for cars. Another clever comment. Thank you for commenting. Even if you don't have a car, yeah. The stroller is putting in work, and I understand probably pretty low maintenance as well. Very affordable. So I'm going to cut it there. This video is probably already pretty long as it is. I could go on forever with this. I love this kind of stuff, getting feedback from viewers, and I learn a lot through this. So there's much more to look at. We will revisit this type of genre video very soon. I absolutely love it. We're going to kind of branch off from that thread into this thread. Tell me some if you agree with the vehicles we saw here, and of course, if you want to mention a reliable vehicle and story you have in the comments of this video, please do so. I cannot wait to see that. I appreciate you watching. That's going to do it for this one. My name is Ian. You're watching IWrocker. Until next time, y'all. Catch you later.